Chapter 1858. After flying 100 miles away, Lu Ming threw Hamodi out. He and Autumn Moon flew forward at top speed. At this distance, even if Hajing wanted to attack, they could let Bubble open a space-time tunnel and escape. Seeing Lu Ming let go of Hamodi, Hajing exploded with terrifying speed and appeared beside Hamodi. He grabbed Hamodi and then quickly retreated, rushing toward the vortex. This scene naturally fell into Lu Ming's eyes. No, Hajing seems to be afraid and wants to leave. Is there danger here? At the thought of this, Lu Ming's expression suddenly changed. Let's go back, Lu Ming shouted. He pulled Autumn Moon's hand and rushed toward the vortex. Boom! At this moment, a huge battle axe appeared in the sky and slashed toward Hajing. Damn it! Hajing roared. The river of law appeared and punched out, sending the battle axe flying. At the same time, a huge hand that was as big as a mountain and surrounded by the river of law grabbed at Hajing. It was a quasi-emperor. A quasi-emperor had attacked. Hajing waved his hand, and saint weapons flew out one after another, blocking in front of the giant hand, while he charged towards the vortex wholeheartedly. As he was already prepared, he was very close to the vortex. After a few flashes, he rushed into the vortex and disappeared. At the same time, Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were also attacked. A huge mace came toward Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Its aura was extremely shocking. Complete Saint Realm! Lu Ming's face changed drastically. The mace's attack was at least equivalent to a complete Saint Realm's attack. It was not something they could fight against now. Bubble waved her hand and the space-time law enveloped Lu Ming and the others. Their figures flashed rapidly and dodged the attack. At the same time, the people from the other forces in Desolation City were also attacked. Moreover, the people who attacked were extremely powerful and shocking. Oh no, we fell into a trap! Damn it, we fell into Hajing's trap! Retreat, retreat quickly! The people of the 6 major forces roared, wanting to retreat towards the vortex. However, one figure after another appeared in the sky. These figures were extremely tall and sturdy, at least 2 meters tall. All of them were draped in animal skins, revealing their muscular arms. Some of them carried battle axes on their backs, while others carried spiked maces, just like the people of the ancient tribes. However, the auras emitted by each and every one of them were extremely terrifying. They were like giant beasts from the Great Desolate Era. Lu Ming sensed that most of them were absolute saints. A few of them had the river of laws surrounding them. They were quasi-emperors. Lu Ming's heart sank. He finally understood why Hajing didn't bring any of the Ha family's experts and came in alone. Obviously, Hajing already knew about the situation here, so he immediately rushed towards the vortex after rescuing Hamodi. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and the others wanted to rush to the vortex, but it was too late. Who are you? We mean you no harm. Mo Qingshan's panicked voice rang out. These ancient barbarians were too strong. They were no match for them. Take them down! A deep voice rang out. Those tall figures had made their move. Terrifying attacks rained down on them. Especially those boundary emperors. The rivers of laws condensed into a huge hand. With a grab, a large group of people was taken down without being able to resist. Boom! In the sky, a huge hand covered the sky and cast a large shadow, grabbing toward Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. This was a boundary emperor. Just now, Lu Ming and the others had displayed amazing movement techniques and attracted a boundary emperor. Bubble, go! Lu Ming shouted. Leave it to me, chirp chirp. Bubble waved its hands, and a space-time passage was formed that went straight to the vortex. Lu Ming and the others rushed into the space-time passage, avoiding the attack of the huge hand. Just as they were about to rush into the space-time passage, a tall and sturdy figure suddenly appeared in front of the vortex. With a grab of the huge hand, the space-time passage collapsed, and Lu Ming and the others were directly grabbed by the huge hand. Lu Ming felt a gush of powerful energy surging toward him, sealing his entire cultivation level. Martial Emperor Expert! I won't die here just like that, right? Lu Ming was extremely unwilling. Then, his body went numb, and his vision turned black as he fainted. After an unknown period of time, Lu Ming slowly woke up. Where was this? Lu Ming looked around and found that he was in a secret room. The walls of the secret room were made of a kind of black metal that was as smooth as a mirror. Autumn Moon and Bubble were lying not far away from him. Lu Ming circulated his saint power and poured it into Autumn Moon and Bubble's bodies. After a while, Autumn Moon and Bubble woke up one after another. Brother Lu Ming, where is this? Chirp, chirp. Bubble blinked its big eyes and looked around. I don't know. Lu Ming shook his head and pondered quickly. Who exactly were those people who looked like barbarians previously? Was this really the ancient desolate sanctuary? I'll bring you out, Bubble said, and then used the space-time law. The void rippled as it wanted to break through space and leave this place. However, the surrounding walls suddenly shone, and Bubble almost crashed into the wall. Bubble could travel through space, but it could not break through the walls. Let me do it! Lu Ming stepped out, used the hell-suppressing heaven skill, and punched out. Boom! The fist hit the wall, and there was a loud boom, but the wall did not move. It's so hard? Lu Ming was shocked. With his current combat strength, a full-powered punch would probably smash a great sage weapon into pieces. However, the wall was not damaged at all. Primal Chaos Law! Space-Time Law! At this moment, a cry of surprise was heard. It was a very shocked voice. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice. In the corner of the secret room, there was an extremely burly man. He was dressed similar to the people who had captured them. Lu Ming had seen this person before, but back then, his attention was on Autumn Moon and Bubble, so he did not pay attention to them. The burly man sized up Lu Ming and Bubble with a look of surprise. After a while, he said, "The few of you, don't waste your energy. The walls here are made of black desolate gold. It can isolate sacred energy, and is indestructible. Unless one has the cultivation of a martial emperor, it is impossible to break through." Black desolate gold? Lu Ming muttered. He had never heard of such a metal. It required a martial emperor to break through it. It was no wonder that his punch did not move it. Senior, where is this? Why did those people capture us? Lu Ming asked. Of course it's the ancient desolate sanctuary. You came in yourself, so don't you know where this place is? As for the people who captured you, they are naturally the desolate race who live in the ancient desolate sanctuary. The burly man explained. Desolate race? You are from the desolate race? Chapter 1859. Oh? Young lady, you have heard of the desolate race? The burly man looked at Chiu Autumn Moon in astonishment. I once read about it in one of my master's ancient books. It was said that the desolate race is an extremely ancient race, but in the distant past they disappeared from the world. I never expected them to be in the legendary ancient savage wilderness domain, Chiu Autumn Moon said. Ha, young lady, you are right. The desolate race has been in seclusion for a long time. They have been living in seclusion in the ancient savage wilderness domain. I never expected you to find us. According to what I know, it has been a long time since outsiders have entered, the burly man said. The desolate race's bodies were extremely stout. They were very different from ordinary people, so needless to say, the burly man knew that Lu Ming and company had come from outside. Senior, then where is this place? Lu Ming asked again. Caged battle arena, the burly man said. What's a caged battle arena? Lu Ming frowned. Immediately, the burly man patiently explained the situation to him. The desolate race had been living in seclusion in the ancient savage wilderness domain, so outsiders did not know. Lu Ming and company had rashly entered, so they were naturally taken down. And this place was a huge caged battle arena of the desolate race. The people who were imprisoned here were people who had committed serious crimes or were slaves. They had to participate in death matches, fighting with other slaves, fierce beasts, or the desolate race's experts who came here for training. The desolate race were very belligerent, so the death matches attracted numerous desolate race members to watch. Lu Ming understood. They had been captured and made slaves. They had to participate in the death matches for the desolate race to watch. As for the burly man, he had also become a slave because of his serious crimes, so he had to participate in the death matches. The death matches in the cage battle arena are typically between people of the same level. As long as you win 100 consecutive battles, you can obtain your freedom and leave this place. You and that kid have grasped the chaos laws and space-time laws, so you definitely have a chance of winning 100 battles. The burly man explained. You can obtain your freedom by winning 100 consecutive battles. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As long as they obtained their freedom, they would have a chance. Of course, the desolate race is belligerent. They admire people with powerful combat strength the most. The robust man spoke, and then he gazed at the innermost wall and said, Once the deathmatch begins, that wall will appear. It's a chance for us deathmatch gladiators to observe the combat strength of others. Next, Lu Ming and the others chatted with the burly man for a while. This was the burly man's first time meeting outsiders. He was very enthusiastic and told Lu Ming and the others everything he knew. He let Lu Ming and the others know more about this place. After an unknown period of time, the inner wall of the secret room suddenly glowed, and then a huge image appeared. It was a huge cage battle arena. It was extremely spacious. Around the cage battle arena were rows of spectator stands. The spectator stands were filled with people. All of them were burly members of the desolate race. Even the women were more than 2 meters tall. They were burly and had strong backs and waists. They were filled with strength. An earth-shaking howl could be heard through the screen. Even sound could be heard from this scene. It was truly miraculous. However, the experts of the martial world controlled the laws of heaven and earth. Laws were the foundation of the world. No matter how miraculous something was, it was not surprising that they could create it. The cage battle had begun. Roar! A roar could be heard. A huge beast walked out of a door on the side of the cage battle arena. It was a tiger-shaped beast, but its body was covered in black scales. Its fangs were like swords, and it looked extremely ferocious. It's a savage mutant, Lu Ming muttered. This beast looked very ancient, and was rarely seen in the outside world. It could only be found in the savage ancient region. At this moment, a figure walked out of a door on the other side of the cage battle arena. Mo Chi Shan! Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and Bubbles' hearts skipped a beat. The person who walked out was Mo Chi Shan. This person came in with you from the outside, right? The burly man asked. That's right. This person is very strong. He is at the great circle of the absolute saint realm. Aren't you afraid that he will take the opportunity to escape? Lu Ming asked. Escape? There are at least 5 martial emperors guarding this cage battle arena. If he tries to flee, only death awaits him. He will be instantly killed, the burly man said disdainfully. 5 martial emperors? Lu Ming gasped. The strength of the desolate race was not to be underestimated. It was just a cage battle arena, but there were no less than 5 martial emperors in it. Mo Qingshan's face was extremely ugly. He had brought the Mo family's experts into the savage ancient region to search for treasures, but he had not expected to be ambushed and brought to such a place. He had also been told that he could only regain his freedom if he won 100 battles in a row. At this moment, Mo Qingshan's heart sank. This was because the beast he was facing had a terrifying aura. There was no doubt that it was at the great circle of the absolute saint realm, and it was a savage mutant. Its combat strength was unpredictable. Roar! The beast roared and charged at Mo Qingshan. Its 4 limbs stomped on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Kill! Mo Qingshan roared as he unsheathed his sword. A terrifying sword beam tore through the void and slashed at the beast. The beast's roar was like thunder. The roar formed a terrifying sound wave that destroyed the sword beam. At the same time, it used its huge claws to shatter the sword beam. Mo Qingshan's face was solemn. He soared into the sky. Endless sword lights poured down from the sky, slashing towards the beasts. However, most of the sword lights were destroyed by the beasts. A few of the sword lights landed on the beasts' bodies and actually produced the sound of metal clashing. Sparks flew in all directions. Emo Qingshan's sword beams could not break through the beast's defense. They only left a few sword marks on the beast's scales. The beast broke through the sword beams and charged at Emo Qingshan. With a swipe of its claws, it sent Emo Qingshan flying. Emo Qingshan retreated, his face pale. Roar! The beast looked ferocious as it continued to charge at Emo Qingshan. Emo Qingshan was no match for the beast. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows. Emo Qingshan was completely at a disadvantage. His body was almost torn apart once, but he managed to avoid the attack. However, he was still severely injured. I won't play with you anymore! Emo Qingshan roared as he charged into the sky. He actually wanted to break through the sky of the cage battle arena and escape. However, a huge palm formed in the sky of the cage battle arena and pressed down on Emo Qingshan. No! Emo Qingshan roared. However, he could not escape from the huge palm and was sent flying out of the cage battle arena. The ferocious beast roared and took the opportunity to grab Emo Qingshan. It tore Emo Qingshan into pieces with all its might, and then swallowed him. How dare you escape from the cage battle arena? Kill without mercy! A majestic voice sounded in the sky above the cage battle arena. At this moment, in the other secret chambers, the people from the Imperial City who came in with Lu Ming saw everything that happened in the cage battle arena. Their faces turned pale. Next, they would also have to face the same scene. How was it possible to win 100 battles in a row? They did not expect the ancient desolate region to be hell instead of a treasure land. It's all because of Hajing. Chapter 1860. Following that, the death match continued. The second person to go up was still an outsider. He was the leader of another faction in the desolate city's 6 major factions. He was also a perfect sacred perfection expert. This time, he was facing a perfect sacred perfection member of the desolate race. However, that desolate race member's combat strength was slightly stronger than the fierce beast from before. After more than 10 moves, he killed that faction's leader. Following that, almost all of the people who went up were outsiders. It was as if the desolate race was curious about the outsiders and wanted to see how strong they were. However, after more than 10 people went up, none of them won a single match. All of them were killed. Lu Ming realized that be it the desolate race or the fierce beast, their combat strength was extremely high. At the same level, they could completely crush the outsiders. The desolate race seems to have extremely powerful bodies. The laws they use are also related to strength. They have immense strength. They are indeed a race that loves to fight, Lu Ming thought to himself. Following that, there were more than 10 battles. Without exception, none of the outsiders won. All of them were killed. The remaining outsiders were in despair. They could not even win a single match, much less 100 consecutive victories. That was completely impossible. And at this moment, the light on the wall dimmed. Today's caged battle was over. It would continue on the second day. That night, Lu Ming, Bubbles and Autumn Moon sat cross-legged and quietly cultivated. The 3 of them had no fear of fighting at the same level. They believed that they could win 100 consecutive battles. The next day, the death match continued. The people who went up were still outsiders. However, the results were the same as yesterday. Almost all of them were killed. One person tried to escape, but he was mercilessly killed by a desolate race expert. On the third day, there was finally a genius with profound combat strength who won a match. For the next 10 days, the death match did not stop. Every day, the cage battle arena was filled to the brim. It was obvious how passionate the desolate race was about fighting. Hundreds of people who came from the desolate city had died in battle. However, there were very few victors. And even if they won, they had to participate in the second and third death match the next day. And the later they fought, the stronger their combat strength would be. Hence, almost no one could win 10 consecutive battles, much less 100. The outsiders are actually so weak? They are indeed very weak. Our desolate race is the true war race of the world. Outsiders can't even withstand a single blow. During this period of time, waves of such voices sounded out from all around the cage battle arena. However, during these 10 days, Lu Ming and the others never got their turn. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. On the 21st day, the group arrived at Lu Ming's secret room. You go out and fight to the death. A muscular man pointed at Lu Ming. Is it finally my turn? A sharp light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He wanted to see if the desolate race would really give him freedom if he won 100 consecutive matches. Brother Lu Ming, you can do it! Brother Lu Ming will definitely win! Bubbles waved her little fists and cheered for Lu Ming. Lu Ming patted Bubbles' head. You! Be careful! Chiu Yu muttered after pondering for a moment. Don't worry! Lu Ming smiled before leaving with the desolate race. Following that, Lu Ming followed a passageway and stepped into the cage battle arena. Only when he stepped into the cage battle arena did he feel the grandeur of the cage battle arena. The spectator stands that spanned 100 miles were filled with people. There were at least 1 million people. This desolate race's strength probably exceeds my imagination. Lu Ming sized up his surroundings and was secretly alarmed. From the looks of it, the Yuan continent was not as simple as it looked. Just like the Yuan Mountains, on the surface, there were only 9 sacred lands. The powerful factions in the 9 sacred lands had astounding strength. The factions outside the 9 sacred lands were all ordinary emperor-ranked factions. They were not very strong. However, who knew that in this remote land, there was an ancient race, the desolate race, living in seclusion. Their strength probably exceeded many of the powerful factions in the sacred lands. Lu Ming sized up his surroundings. The surrounding desolate race members were also sizing up Lu Ming. This person is so young. What's his cultivation level? It was just reported that it was a battle between great sages at the large success stage. This means that this person has a cultivation level at the large success stage of the great sage realm. For him to reach the large success stage of the great sage realm at such a young age, it seems like this person is an elite from the outside world. I wonder how strong he is? In the spectator stands, the desolate race members were in a flurry of discussion. Roar! With a loud roar, a gigantic beast rushed out from a large door. This beast was in the form of a tiger. It was covered in scales and looked identical to the beast that Mo Qi Shan was fighting. It was clearly from the same race, but its cultivation level was at the large success stage of the great sage realm. The beast roared, and when it saw Lu Ming, it charged straight at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's palm glowed as sacred power surged, condensing into a spear. Lu Ming took a step forward, causing the ground to tremble. As for Lu Ming's figure, he charged out like lightning. His speed was astounding. In an instant, he approached the beast and thrust out his spear. This spear was like a bolt of lightning. In a flash, it stabbed at the beast's head. Pwah! Blood splattered everywhere. Accompanied by the beast's roar, the beast's head was pierced through by Lu Ming, nailing it to the ground. The audience suddenly fell silent before bursting into loud cheers. With just one move, he killed a beast of the same level. His speed was as fast as lightning. What amazing combat strength! He killed a tiger-scaled beast of the same level in one move. No wonder he reached the large success stage of the great sage realm at such a young age. He must be an elite from the outside world. Someone from the outside world has finally appeared. At this moment, a desolate race expert entered the arena and dragged the corpse of the tiger-scaled beast away. Do you choose to continue fighting, or do you choose to rest and fight another day? A burly man with a battle axe on his back stood high in the sky and looked at Lu Ming. Let's fight again. Lu Ming answered without any hesitation. All right. The burly man nodded and left through the air. Not long after, a figure stepped out of a large door and walked into the cage battle arena. This person looked to be in his 50s. He was draped in a piece of animal skin and his upper body was naked, revealing muscles that were as firm as iron. He was a desolate race expert, and his cultivation level was also at the large success stage of the great sage realm. However, he looked at Lu Ming with a heavy gaze. The moment he stepped into the arena, a gigantic mace appeared in his hand as he stared cautiously at Lu Ming. Lu Ming had just killed a tiger-scaled beast of the same level in one move. His combat strength was absolutely amazing. Pun! Lu Ming took a step forward and charged at the person. The sacred power in his hand condensed into a long spear that was 1,000 meters long as it lashed out at the person. The desolate race burly man roared as his muscles bulged. Powerful energy surged into the mace as he charged at Lu Ming. However, when the long spear lashed out, the person cried out in pain as his body was sent flying like a cannonball. He flew for thousands of meters before stopping and vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. This was after Lu Ming showed mercy. If not, the person would have died. "You have lost," Lu Ming said indifferently. Following that, he looked up into the sky and said, "Next." There was an uproar. Another defeat in one move. "Great!" A voice sounded high in the sky. Chapter 1861. After that, Lu Ming activated his crushing mode. Everyone who fought, be it the fierce beasts or the desolate race experts, were all defeated by Lu Ming in one move. Battling someone of the same level was no pressure for Lu Ming. There was no challenge at all. In a short period of time, Lu Ming had won 19 consecutive matches. So strong. This person's combat strength is amazing. It feels unfathomable. That's right. The surrounding desolate race members were not discouraged or angry because of the desolate race experts being defeated. Instead, they became more and more excited. On the highest viewing platform, a few powerful desolate race existences were nodding their heads. "This outsider's combat strength is not bad. Let Huang Ren try," one of them said. Not long after, a figure stepped into the caged battle arena. This person looked very young, about the same age as Lu Ming. He was extremely burly, at least 2.56 meters tall. He was much taller than Lu Ming. His muscles bulged, as if he was filled with infinite strength. "It's Huang Ren. Huang Ren has made his move. Huang Ren has already won 30 consecutive matches. I wonder if he can stop this outsider's footsteps. Huang Ren has an inferior heaven spiritual body, so he might be able to put up a fight." Seeing this youth, even more desolate race members were excited. They looked forward to the upcoming battle. "Kid, you are very strong, but against me, your winning streak has come to an end." Huang Ren held a gigantic axe in his hand as he looked at Lu Ming with fighting spirit. "Make your move," Lu Ming spoke calmly. He was still holding on to a long spear that was condensed from Saint Power. "What arrogance, take this!" Huang Ren roared as he charged at Lu Ming with his battle axe in hand. He stepped on the ground and like a savage beast, he charged at Lu Ming. Not far from Lu Ming, he charged high into the sky and looked down from above. His gigantic axe cleaved down at Lu Ming with an astonishing aura. "Inferior heaven spiritual body? It's just a law, an ordinary law of strength." With a thought, Lu Ming swept out with his spear. Dong! With a loud explosion, Huang Ren was sent flying like a cannonball, just like the opponent Lu Ming had faced before. He flew all the way to the edge of the cage battle arena before stopping. He spat out a large mouthful of blood as he looked at Lu Ming in shock. He felt that Lu Ming's strength was simply unfathomable, and completely invincible. "Thank you for showing mercy." Huang Ren cupped his fists, stood up, and strode away. He had been defeated, and there was no need for him to continue fighting. "Another move! I'm afraid that this person also has a heavenly spiritual body, and his level is even higher. I wonder if this person can achieve 100 consecutive victories." Lu Ming defeated Huang Ren in one move. Everyone knew that they had underestimated Lu Ming. Many people were looking forward to seeing if Lu Ming could achieve 100 consecutive victories. It was not easy to obtain 100 consecutive victories. Those who could achieve it were rare elites of the desolate race. Again! With his spear in hand, Lu Ming's fighting spirit surged as his voice resounded throughout the arena. The next person to fight was not as strong as Huang Ren, so Lu Ming naturally won easily. Lu Ming began a crazy winning streak. Furthermore, he only needed one move in every battle. It gave people an unfathomable feeling. No one knew how strong Lu Ming's combat strength was. 30 consecutive victories, 40 consecutive victories, 50 consecutive victories. Soon, Lu Ming reached 90 consecutive victories. At this moment, an expert stepped down from the sky and looked at Lu Ming, asking, "Kid, what's your name?" "Lu Ming." Lu Ming answered. "Lu Ming, very good. Your combat strength is very strong, enough to gain the respect of the desolate race. However, let's end today's battle here. The number of great sage experts at the large success stage is limited, so they need time to deploy. The remaining 10 battles will be fought in 2 days," the desolate race expert said. "All right." Lu Ming nodded. The further he went, the stronger the opponents he would face. It was normal for the other party to deploy stronger great sage experts at the large success stage. However, Lu Ming was unafraid. He had yet to meet a match at the same level. Following that, Lu Ming returned to the chamber. Today's battle had come to an end. On the second day, it was not Lu Ming's turn to fight, but Bubble. When Bubbles entered the arena, everyone was a little stunned. It was unknown if it was a problem with Bubbles' physique, but she did not grow up. She looked the same as when she first transformed. She looked like she was 2 or 3 years old. Lu Ming guessed that it was because the growth cycle of the top 10 battle beasts was relatively long. A 2 or 3-year-old girl left people speechless. However, when they learned that Bubbles' cultivation level had reached the large success stage of the Great Sage Realm, everyone's mouths twitched. A 2 or 3-year-old girl actually had the cultivation level of a Great Sage Realm? That's not right. She doesn't seem to be a human, but a fae. A fae. Even if she is a fae, she is so young after transforming. She shouldn't be that old, right? That's true. I wonder what kind of combat power she has. In the midst of the discussion, the battle began. Then, the battle ended the next moment. There was silence in the audience. Many people didn't even see how the battle ended. Bubble just spat out a bubble and her opponent was seriously injured. "I want to continue fighting." Bubble's childish voice spread throughout the audience. In the following battle, the audience could only be described as silent. Bubble, like Lu Ming yesterday, launched a crushing mode. Her speed was even faster than Lu Ming's. No matter who the opponent was, as long as Bubble pouted and waved her little hand, the opponent would be seriously injured and sent flying. Soon after, Bubble also achieved 90 consecutive victories. At this point, she had to stop and fight another day. As Bubble used a very short time, today's battle continued. After that, Autumn Moon appeared. It was already shocking that Chiao Yu had reached the great sage perfection at such a young age. However, the following battle was even more shocking. A sweep, another sweep. Autumn Moon also achieved 90 consecutive victories before the battle ended. In the next 2 days, Lu Ming, Bubble and Autumn Moon did not go on stage. Instead, it was other people's battles. 2 days later, Lu Ming finally welcomed his 91st battle. The desolate race had prepared for a few days, and the experts they sent were indeed stronger. However, to Lu Ming, there was no difference in battling at the same level, unless it was a son of heaven. It was still a sweep. 91 consecutive victories, 92 consecutive victories, 93 consecutive victories. Soon, it reached 99 consecutive victories. In the 100th battle, the desolate race finally sent out a heavyweight. This person was a young elite of the desolate race. His spirit body had reached the high-grade heaven spirit body, and his strength was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming realized that the desolate race's combat power was much stronger than the elites of the outside world when their spirit bodies were the same. For example, this elite had a high-grade heaven spirit body, but his laws were not King Dao laws. His talent was on par with the Xingyuan Empire's crown prince, Ouyang Wudao. If the two were at the same realm, the desolate race would definitely be stronger. However, to Lu Ming, he was no different from the others. He was still easily defeated by Lu Ming. 100 consecutive victories. The audience cheered. Chapter 1862. High up in the cage battle arena, a few desolate race experts looked at Lu Ming with surprise in their eyes. His combat strength is very strong. He is invincible at the same level. I suggest that we let him cross levels and see his combat strength. Who knows, he might even be of great help to our desolate race. Are you talking about that matter? How can it be possible? Our desolate race's strongest elites have never been able to accomplish it. How can an outsider do it? How would we know if we don't try? Let's report this matter and see what the patriarchs think. A few desolate race experts were discussing. Following that, a person stepped down and landed in the arena. Senior, now that I have won 100 consecutive matches, can I obtain my freedom? Lu Ming looked at the desolate race expert. No! The desolate race expert shook his head. Lu Ming's expression changed as he said, Senior, I heard that the desolate race has a rule. As long as you win 100 consecutive matches, you can obtain your freedom. Is the desolate race going back on their word? The others present were also surprised. Indeed, as long as one won 100 consecutive matches, be it slaves, beasts, or others, they would obtain their freedom. This was a rule passed down by the desolate race. Why did the desolate race experts say that it was impossible? That rule is for living beings in the ancient savage wilderness region. As you are outsiders, the conditions are even higher. If you can achieve 100 consecutive victories, you can obtain your freedom, the desolate race expert said. 100 consecutive victories across levels. All right, I agree. Lu Ming clenched his fists together before returning to the chamber. 100 consecutive victories across levels? Everyone in the spectator stands was shocked. Then, they revealed looks of great anticipation. Since ancient times, not many people had managed to achieve 100 consecutive victories across levels. Those who managed to do it were all peerless elites, and later on, they would become peerless experts. Could this outsider accomplish it? After Lu Ming returned, it was Bubbles and Autumn Moon's turn. Without exception, Bubbles and Autumn Moon also successfully achieved 100 consecutive victories. However, they did not obtain their freedom. They continued returning to the chamber. In an ancient castle of the desolate race, a group of terrifying experts were discussing matters. I didn't expect that there would be 3 terrifying geniuses among the outsiders. One of them has mastered the law of chaos, one has mastered the law of space and time, and the last one has a king body and is very strong. Perhaps that matter can be completed with the help of these outsiders. I'm afraid that king body won't do. Throughout the generations there have been many king bodies, but none of them have been able to complete it. The other 2 are Elysian children, so they might have a chance. That little girl is too young, and although the laws of space-time are wondrous, she is not strong enough. I'm afraid she won't succeed. But that young man called Lu Ming has grasped the laws of primal chaos. Perhaps he has a chance. And then let's have that young man fight against those of a higher cultivation level. Let's see how strong he is before we make a decision. The experts of the desolate race were discussing the matter, but Lu Ming was completely unaware of it. At this moment, Lu Ming was a little worried. He and Bubbles should be able to win 100 matches in a row, unless their opponents also had Elysian children. If they didn't, they wouldn't have any problems. He was worried about Mid-Autumn Moon. Although Mid-Autumn Moon's combat strength was very strong, the desolate race was a warlike race. They were stronger than outsiders at the same cultivation level. What if the desolate race also had a king body? Mid-Autumn Moon would probably be in danger. Furthermore, Mid-Autumn Moon's cultivation level was at the perfection of the Great Sage realm. Fighting against an absolute sage? The difference between an absolute sage and a great sage was not great. It was a difference of a large realm, not something a small realm could compare to. After a long while, Lu Ming let out a long sigh. It was useless to worry now. He could only take it one step at a time. On the second day, Lu Ming's battle against those of a higher cultivation level began. The cage battle arena was even more crowded. An outsider was about to engage in a battle against those of a higher cultivation level. It caused a huge uproar and attracted countless people to watch. Boom! 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 The ground rumbled. Lu Ming's first battle was against a terrifying beast. It was a 10-meter-tall giant bear. Its body was also covered in scales, and its cultivation level was at the peak of the Great Sage realm. However, Lu Ming still only used one move to send the giant bear flying tens of thousands of meters away. As expected, his combat power is amazing. Even if his cultivation level is higher, he can't withstand a single blow. In the beginning, he's definitely not a match for Lu Ming. If you want to watch later. The geniuses at the peak of the Great Sage realm will appear later. That's when the intense battle will begin. Since Lu Ming could achieve 100 consecutive victories at the same cultivation level, he naturally had the ability to fight against those of a higher cultivation level. An ordinary peak Great Sage was naturally no match for Lu Ming. If you want to watch the battle between the peak Great Sage realm prodigies and Lu Ming. That would be worth watching. The crushing continued. Next, Lu Ming continued to crush them in a sweeping manner. 10 consecutive victories, 20 consecutive victories. Soon, Lu Ming achieved 80 consecutive victories. After 80 consecutive victories, some prodigies appeared. There were people with heavenly spiritual bodies, people with powerful divine powers, and beasts with terrifying bloodlines. However, without exception, they were all crushed by Lu Ming. 90 consecutive victories, 95 consecutive victories, 99 consecutive victories. It was unstoppable. In the 100th battle, the desolate race sent out a terrifying beast. This beast's physique was terrifyingly strong, but it was still easily defeated by Lu Ming. 100 consecutive victories in a cross-level battle. The scene was in an uproar. 100 consecutive victories in a cross-level battle were born. And from the looks of it, Lu Ming did it very easily, as if he did not expend much effort. How could he be so strong? The onlookers were shocked. There were not many such experts in the desolate race's long history. It was shocking for an outsider to have such a prodigy. Senior, can I regain my freedom? Lu Ming looked up at the desolate race expert high in the sky. Yes. The desolate race expert nodded. Following that, he changed the topic and said, However, I'll give you a choice. Do you accept it? What choice? Lu Ming asked. I know that the girl named Autumn Moon and the girl named Bubbles are your friends. The choice is that you can give this chance to them. Then, they will not need to fight again to regain their freedom. However, you have to carry on with the challenge. The desolate race expert said. Carry on with the challenge? Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. That's right. By crossing 2 levels and battling a perfect Great Sage, if you can cross 2 levels and obtain 100 consecutive victories, you will also regain your freedom. The desolate race expert said. These words caused an uproar in the crowd. Crossing 2 levels and obtaining 100 consecutive victories is impossible. It's absolutely impossible. That's right. This is an impossible matter. No one can do it, unless those 2 levels higher are all ordinary figures. In the history of the desolate race, no one has ever done it. And this time, it's even more impossible. Don't forget that our desolate race's #1 prodigy is currently at the perfect Great Sage realm. This person probably won't agree to it, right? To cross 2 levels, unless one did not encounter a prodigy, it was nearly impossible to obtain 100 consecutive victories. Chapter 1863. Lu Ming did not hesitate and immediately agreed. Compared to Autumn Moon, he was more confident of winning. Good, you have guts. Haha, now I'll get someone to release your 2 friends. The desolate race expert laughed as he looked at Lu Ming with a look of appreciation. Not long after, Autumn Moon and Bubbles walked out from a large door. Take these 2 tokens. In the future, no one will touch you when you travel around the ancient wilderness region. Two tokens appeared in the desolate race expert's hand as they flew towards Autumn, Moon, and Bubbles. "Brother Lu Ming, all the best." "Beat them, chirp chirp." Bubbles waved her tiny fists and cheered for Lu Ming before climbing onto Autumn, Moon's shoulder. Autumn, Moon received the tokens and looked at Lu Ming with a complicated look before flying to the spectator stands. "Lu Ming, do you want to challenge now or do you need to recover before you fight?" the desolate race expert asked. "There's no need to recover. Let's fight now," Lu Ming said. If he wanted to fight, he had to end it quickly and obtain 100 consecutive victories in one fell swoop. "Good, you have the confidence. Perfect, great sage. Who wants to give it a try?" The desolate race expert looked around the spectator stands. "I'll fight him." A figure stood up from the spectator stands and took a step forward. He landed in the middle of the arena, and his aura was emitted. His cultivation level was at the perfect great sage realm. This person was very young, and he was a few heads taller than Lu Ming. Two gigantic hammers appeared in his hands that looked like two water tanks. Typically, those who entered the prisoner battle arena's fourth test were either fierce beasts or slaves. And those who flew down from the spectator stands were desolate race experts who were here for training. "It's Huang Di. I never expected him to go up in the first round. Huang Di has a superior heaven astral body. He is a top elite of our race's younger generation." Many people's eyes lit up when they saw this youth. They never expected the first round to be the highlight. "All right, then fight to your heart's content. I won't disturb you any further." The desolate race expert stepped into the air and left. "Come on, show me what you've got. Show me what you've got." Huang Di swung his two hammers and smashed them against each other, making a loud noise. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. Lu Ming's combat strength was rarely seen, even among the desolate race. The desolate race were belligerent, so they were naturally delighted to see him. "Then let's see if you have the ability," Lu Ming said. His body glowed as sacred weapons flew out from his acupoints. More than 100 saint weapons hovered around Lu Ming. Sealing a sacred weapon in one's body. What a wondrous ability! It's better not to be just for show. Huang Di grinned and took a step forward. His whole body was like a cannonball as he rushed towards Lu Ming. His two hammers smashed towards Lu Ming like a storm. Back then, Sky Hammer also used a hammer, but its power couldn't be compared to Desolate Land. As the hammers came crashing down, the sky emitted a terrifying whistling sound. The air was compressed, creating a terrifying wind wave that came crashing down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming held a sacred weapon battle sword in his hand. The sacred energy in his body roared as he slashed out. The terrifying chi wave was split into two. Dang! Dang! The battle sword and Huang Di's hammers collided violently, creating a violent wind that swept out in all directions. Huang Di's body trembled violently as his stout body retreated continuously. He retreated more than 10 steps before he found his footing. High-grade heaven spiritual body. The desolate race is indeed an ancient race. They sure have many geniuses. Lu Ming was secretly alarmed. In this short period of time, among the desolate race elites that Lu Ming had encountered, there were 3 people with high-grade heaven spiritual bodies. This was extremely shocking. In the outside world, a high-grade heaven spiritual body was definitely a top elite. It was in existence second only to a king body. If a king body did not appear, no one could compete. But in the desolate race, he had encountered one after another. However, he did not know that Huang Di was even more shocked. He was a top elite of the desolate race. Among his peers, there were not many who could match him. Now, despite having a cultivation level 2 levels higher, he was still forced into a disadvantageous position by Lu Ming. Powerful, again! Huang Di raised his 2 hammers and stomped on the ground. He was like a mountain that came crashing down on Lu Ming. Swish! Swish! Lu Ming's battle sword was like the wind as it constantly slashed out, clashing with Huang Di's hammers. Sparks flew as the two of them clashed more than 10 times. Every collision made Huang Di retreat a few steps. After more than 10 collisions, Huang Di had already retreated a large distance. His face was pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. "I'm not fighting anymore. I'm not fighting anymore. I admit defeat." Huang Di raised his hammers and turned to run, shouting that he admitted defeat. He realized that Lu Ming's strength completely crushed him. There was no need to continue the battle. Even Huang Di has been defeated. Could this person really be able to surpass 2 levels and obtain 100 consecutive victories? Even Huang Di is no match for him. Not many people in the perfect Great Sage realm can be his match. This combat power is really amazing, many people exclaimed. And on the highest viewing platform, the eyes of a few desolate race experts lit up. Who else wants to fight? Lu Ming's eyes scanned the surroundings. I'll do it. Just as Lu Ming's voice faded, a voice followed. Following that, a burly figure soared into the sky and landed in the arena. This was also a youth. His body was even more burly than Huang Di's. Standing there, he was like a mountain. He had a demeanor that said, "Who else but me can do it?" This was an undefeatable belief. Huang Di, it's Huang Di! Huang Di has already made his move. I thought he was going to leave it until the end. Can the number 1 elite of the younger generation defeat Lu Ming? Upon seeing this youth, many people even stood up from their seats and shouted in excitement. The number 1 elite of the desolate race's younger generation? Lu Ming spoke. There were sounds all around him, so he naturally heard it. Lu Ming, if you defeat me, there is no need to fight any further. I'll count it as your 100 consecutive victories, Huang Di said. Everyone nodded. Indeed, Huang Di was an invincible existence in the perfect Great Sage realm. If he was not a match, then the battles that followed would be meaningless. Not to mention 100 consecutive victories, he could obtain even more consecutive victories. Alright, that's exactly what I want, Lu Ming spoke. He also wanted to see how strong the number 1 elite of the desolate race was. Pun! Huang Di took a step forward. It was as if an ancient behemoth was walking, causing the ground to tremble. Pun! Pun! Following that, Huang Di continued to take steps. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble. And the aura from his body grew stronger. His muscles bulged and he was filled with explosive power. Finally, Huang Di was not far from Lu Ming. He punched at Lu Ming. He punched with his bare hands, but the resulting tremors were more intense than when Huang Di brandished the gigantic hammer. Lu Ming was fearless. He also threw a punch toward the desolation power. Lu Ming actually wants to clash head-on with Huang Di? At the same level, no one is Huang Di's match in a head-on clash. Furthermore, Lu Ming's cultivation level is 2 levels lower. He probably does not know how powerful Huang Di is. Chapter 1864. Lu Ming and Huang Li's fists collided with each other. Neither of them was willing to give an inch, and they collided heavily. Dong! There was a dull roar and a terrifying shockwave burst out from where their fists collided. The shockwave spread out in all directions of the spectator stand and crossed 100 miles in an instant. Above the spectator stand, there were experts who set up layers of defense to block the shockwave. Bam! Bam! The two figures trembled and retreated wildly. They stomped on the ground, causing the ground to rumble. Lu Ming and desolately retreated at the same time, which shocked the audience. Lu Ming was not weaker than desolately in a head-on confrontation. What a terrifying power! What a strong power! This is the law of force! Lu Ming squinted his eyes. Desolate Li's spiritual body was a superior heavenly spiritual body. The law that he mastered was the law of force, which was one of the King Dao laws. It was exactly the same as Long Chen's law. Force was the ultimate force. It had boundless strength and could break all laws with force. Coupled with Desolate Li's complete great sage cultivation, his power was shocking. He could blow up a mountain and crack the ground with a single punch. Great again! Desolate Li saw that Lu Ming was a match for him in a head-on confrontation. His battle intent was ignited and his eyes were filled with a fanatical battle intent. He rushed towards Lu Ming and threw out continuous punches like cannonballs at Lu Ming. Bam! Lu Ming stomped on the ground and dashed out. He circulated the hell-suppressing heaven skill and punched continuously with both his fists. Lu Ming had never been afraid of anyone in a head-on confrontation. Lu Ming's fist seemed to have the shadow of the suppressing hell monument. It had the power of hundreds of millions of caddies. It suppressed the heavens and was shockingly powerful. Bam! Bam! Both of their fists continued to hit each other. It was direct, brutal, and overbearing. There were roars in the heavens and the earth. Some of the weaker cultivators turned pale and almost suffered internal injuries. The two of them exchanged more than 100 blows, but there was still no clear winner. To be honest, Desolate Lee was very strong. Each of his attacks was like thunder. It was terrifyingly powerful. In a direct confrontation, not many people could directly confront him like this. Lu Ming was also relying on the hell-suppressing heaven skill and the power of the primal chaos law to resist the desolate force. Lu Ming, what other tricks do you have? Use them all! Huang Li roared. All right, Lu Ming replied. The law of primal chaos surged as he abruptly tapped out with a finger. Primal chaos tribulation finger. The terrifying finger force crushed towards Huang Li. Huang Li's face was extremely solemn. He roared, and a pair of gloves appeared on his hands. He operated the law of extreme force and punched with all his might. A star seemed to appear on his fist as he punched out. He blasted it toward Lu Ming and collided with the chaos finger of calamity. It was a shocking scene. It was as if a finger of a god had tapped on a star in the starry sky. Then, the star exploded and Huang Li's body retreated rapidly. It's time to end this battle, Seal! Lu Ming muttered. Following that, dense runes suddenly appeared on Huang Li's body, sealing him. Huang Li's expression changed drastically as he used all his strength to struggle. But at this moment, Lu Ming tapped out with another finger. A huge finger pressed down on Huang Li, sending him flying thousands of meters away as he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. And this was after Lu Ming showed mercy. If not, Huang Li would not have just been injured. Ha ha ha, impressive. Really impressive. Lu Ming, I've lost! Huang Li was defeated, but he laughed out loud and thought nothing of it. I just have a few more tricks up my sleeves. I might not be able to beat you in a direct confrontation. Thank you for letting me win. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, A win is a win. In a battle of life and death, who dares to fight me head on? However, we can fight again in the future. Next time, I will definitely beat you. Huang Li's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. All right, let's fight again when there's a chance. Lu Ming smiled. He realized that these people from the desolate race were not bad. All of them were very straightforward and did not have many schemes. At this moment, the desolate race expert descended from the sky and landed in front of Lu Ming. Since you have jumped 2 levels and defeated Huang Li, then no one in the perfect great sage realm is your match. You are free! A token appeared in the desolate race expert's hand as he threw it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming caught it, and his face revealed a look of joy. He was finally free. Then, he could search for brute crystals in the ancient wilderness region. Lu Ming, my desolate race's clan elder wants to meet you. At this moment, the desolate race expert spoke out once again. The desolate race's clan elder wants to meet me? Lu Ming was stunned. That's right. I have something I need your help with. The desolate race expert nodded. This sentence was said through a voice transmission, so no one else could hear it. Senior, since you have invited me, I will definitely meet you. Lu Ming did not hesitate as he nodded in agreement. All right, come with me. Huang Li, you too. The desolate race expert flew towards the arena. Lu Ming, Huang Li, as well as Autumn Moon and Bubbles, who were in the stands, followed him. After flying out of the arena, they headed north. How spectacular! Having been here for some time, this was the first time Lu Ming came out of the arena. He sized up his surroundings. This was an ancient giant city. There were various ancient buildings in the city. They were majestic and tall. There was no end in sight. In the city, there was an endless stream of people from the desolate race. Not long after, they came to a majestic building and entered a grand hall. In the grand hall, there were a few burly white-haired elders sitting there. These elders did not seem to have any aura. They looked like ordinary elders. "Greetings, clan elders!" The desolate race expert and Huang Li bowed towards the elders. "There's no need to stand on ceremony." The elder in the middle raised his hand slightly and looked at Lu Ming. He gave a look of admiration and said, "You are Lu Ming? I just heard the news that you defeated Huang Li. Crossing 2 levels to defeat Huang Li, this old man has lived for so long, but this is the first time I've seen such combat strength." "Senior, you flatter me. This junior was just lucky," Lu Ming said humbly. The few elders chuckled and did not comment. "Little rascal, our desolate race has something that we need your help with." The elder in the middle continued speaking. "You need my help? But this junior's strength is weak." Lu Ming was stunned. He never expected that the desolate race clan elders would seek his help with something. However, he was only at the great sage realm. There were probably plenty of people in the desolate race that were stronger than him. What did they need his help with? The old man smiled and said, "Come with me and you'll know." "Huang Li, you kids, come with me." With that said, the few elders walked out. The desolate force and desolate race experts also followed. Lu Ming hesitated for a moment before following with Autumn Moon and Bubbles. Soon, they came to a secret place. Chapter 1865. Lu Ming, the matter we need your help with is not complicated. You just need to walk from here to an altar and activate it. A desolate race tribal elder said. "Walk to an altar? Are there any obstacles on this path?" Lu Ming asked. The tribal elder nodded and said, "These 3 altars were left behind by the desolate race's ancestors. Legend has it that they contain the desolate race's treasures, and they are related to the rise and fall of the desolate race. Unfortunately, for countless years, no one has been able to approach the altars and activate them to obtain the desolate race's treasures. On every path, there is a terrifying pressure. The stronger one's cultivation level, the stronger the pressure. Hence, only elites can step on it," the tribal elder explained once. So that was the case. Lu Ming's heart stirred. It was no wonder the desolate race wanted his help. And the previous cage battle was probably a test for him. If not, he would have regained his freedom after obtaining his 100th victory. "Tribal elder, I want to try again." At this moment, Huang Li spoke. "All right, go ahead and try." The tribal elder nodded. Huang Li took a step forward and walked towards the ancient path on the leftmost side. Dong! When he stepped onto the ancient bluestone path, the heaven and earth seemed to emit a roar. Huang Li's step was as heavy as a mountain. Huang Li's body trembled slightly before he stood up straight and continued walking forward. Dong! Another roar resounded as the ground trembled slightly. Huang Li seemed to be under immense pressure. His muscles bulged as the might laws covered his body. He was like an invincible god of war as he took a step forward. Dong! Dong! Step by step, he took a step forward. Every step he took would emit a roar. Soon, Huang Li had taken 100 steps forward. But after 100 steps, his speed began to slow down. It was as if the pressure he was facing had increased. However, Huang Li's eyes were filled with determination as he continued walking forward. Not long after, Huang Li took 200 steps. His speed slowed down once again, but he continued walking forward. It was as if every 100 steps he took, the pressure Huang Li faced would increase. Step by step, he proceeded forward. Every 100 steps, the speed of the Desolate's power would slow down. After more than an hour, Desolate Force had finally taken 500 steps. When he took the 501st step, his body suddenly shook, and his face turned pale. The ancient bluestone road was 1,000 meters long, which was 1,000 steps. Only half of the Desolate's power had been used. Roar! Huang Li let out a deep roar. His eyes were unyielding as he continued to move forward. As he took a step forward, his body trembled again. However, he did not fall. Instead, he continued to move forward. Every step he took was very difficult, as if he was carrying the weight of an ancient divine mountain on his back. Not bad, there is an improvement. In the history of the desolate race, the number of people who could reach 500 steps can be counted on one hand. The elder nodded his head. He was satisfied with Desolate Force's performance. Let's see how many steps this little guy can take, another elder said. After that, no one said anything and continued to watch. The speed of the Desolate steps became slower and slower. Sometimes, it would take more than 10 minutes to take a step. However, everyone was patient. After 3 days, the Desolate Force had finally reached the 600th step. Not bad. Even in the history of the Desolate race, few people with king bodies could reach 600 steps. One of the elders exclaimed in admiration. For Desolate Force to be able to reach this step, his future achievements would be extraordinary. After Desolate Force took 600 steps, he stopped. He stood there, as if he was meditating to recover. This stop lasted for an entire day. A day later, Desolate Force let out an angry roar and took another step forward, towards the 601st step. However, when he took that step, his body shook violently. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body flew out of the ancient bluestone road. An elder stretched out his hand to catch Desolate Force. A surge of energy surged into Desolate Force's body. Desolate Force's pale face regained some vitality. Lu Ming, as you can see, with Desolate Force's strength, he can only take 600 steps. If you can help our race open the altar, then you will be a great benefactor of our race. You will be an honored guest of our race, and you will be given the position of an outer race elder. Your status will be second only to our Desolate race elders. How about it? An elder said. Lu Ming's heart palpitated. If he helped the Desolate race open the altar, he would be given the position of an outer race elder. His status would be second only to the Desolate race elders. This power was no trifling matter. And the Desolate race's strength was unfathomable. If he could obtain the help of the Desolate race, it would definitely be an extremely powerful backer. Lu Ming secretly took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He said, Senior, you are being too polite. This junior will definitely do his best. Also, this junior's reason for coming to the ancient savage wilderness region is to search for brute crystals. I wonder if Senior has any news of brute crystals? So you are here to search for brute crystals. Although brute crystals are precious, our race still has quite a number of them. We can give you a few in the future, an elder said with a smile. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Following that, he looked at the ancient bluestone road and said, Then, this junior will give it a try. After saying that, Lu Ming took a step forward and walked towards the left ancient bluestone road that Desolate Force had just taken. Dong! When Lu Ming took a step forward, he felt a powerful force pressing down on him. It made his body feel extremely heavy. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble. However, although this force was strong, it did not affect Lu Ming much. Lu Ming took a step forward and walked forward quickly. Dong! Dong! The ground trembled constantly. In a few breaths' time, Lu Ming had taken 100 steps. What a fast speed! He is indeed a son of chaos! A Desolate race elder's eyes lit up. This kid is a bit stronger than ordinary Elysian children. Perhaps he really does have a chance. The other elder had a hopeful look on his face. The altar left behind by their ancestors had been sealed for too long. Over the eons, they had tried all sorts of methods to open it, but to no avail. Perhaps there was hope now. Their Desolate race was the strongest faction in the world eons ago. They were at the peak of their power, and had countless experts. Eventually, they competed with other powerful factions, resulting in their defeat and the deaths of their experts. Hence, they could only live in seclusion and hide in the ancient savage wilderness region. However, the treasures left behind by their ancestors were not opened by anyone. Even after so many years, the Desolate race had yet to recover to its peak. The treasures in the 3 altars were their opportunity, so they naturally cared about it. Dong! When Lu Ming took 100 steps, he did not stop at all. He took a step towards the 101st step. When he took that step, Lu Ming felt an even more powerful force pressing down on him. However, Lu Ming's muscles only trembled slightly as he resisted the force and continued forward. Chapter 1866. In about a minute he had taken 300 steps. This speed shocked the few desolate race patriarchs, as well as Huang Li and company. Following that, they were overjoyed. Maybe Lu Ming could really do it. After 300 steps, Lu Ming's speed finally slowed down. However, compared to Huang Li, he was still much faster. Not long after, Lu Ming reached 400 steps. After 400 steps, his speed slowed down again. Following that, it was 500 steps. After 500 steps, there was still no obstruction to Lu Ming. He took one step at a time, firmly moving forward. When Lu Ming reached his 600th step, the few desolate race members were shocked. 600 steps. Previously, Huang Li had stopped at 600 steps. Huang Li was the number 1 elite of the desolate race. In the history of the desolate race, he was one of the few elites. However, Huang Li had used a few days, while Lu Ming had only used about an hour. In the history of the desolate race, the highest record was 700 steps. Lu Ming stood at the 600th step. After adjusting his breathing slightly, he took another step. Dong! A loud boom resounded as a terrifying pressure pressed down on Lu Ming's body. However, Lu Ming's body only trembled slightly as he withstood the pressure. Following that, he took a second step, a third step. After withstanding it, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Ming took one step at a time at a constant speed. This time, Lu Ming took an hour to reach his 700th step. This was already a tie with the desolate race's record. Following that, Lu Ming just needed to take another step to break the desolate race's record. Lu Ming stopped and spent some time adjusting his breathing to recover. Then, he took another step. The 701st step caused the ground to tremble violently. The entire ancient bluestone road began to emit a green glow. Lu Ming's body was shrouded in primal chaos laws as he forcefully withstood the external pressure. What a strong pressure! It's only the 701st step, but the pressure is already so strong! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. He felt that all his muscles and bones were under a terrifying pressure, and they were all groaning. It was as if his body had become 1,000,000 times heavier. In his dantian, the two saint hearts spun rapidly, and majestic saint power filled Lu Ming's entire body. Lu Ming continued to step forward. However, at this point, Lu Ming's walking speed was greatly reduced. It was much slower than before. The people of the desolate race revealed looks of nervousness. Was it already so difficult after 700 steps? Could Lu Ming make it to the end? If even Lu Ming couldn't make it to the end, then they would really be in despair. They did not believe that there was anyone in the world who could be stronger than Lu Ming at the same level of strength. Dong! Dong! The rumbling continued. Fortunately, the area was isolated by a formation. Otherwise, the intense rumbling would have shaken the entire ancient city. This time, Lu Ming took a total of 3 hours before he reached the 100th step and landed on the 800th step. There were only 200 steps left before he would walk through the ancient bluestone path. But without a doubt, the last 200 steps were the most difficult. Lu Ming's eyes turned serious. Finally, he sat down cross-legged at the 800th step. He took out a large number of ores and began devouring them to recover. Just now, he had expended a large amount of saint power. Everyone waited quietly. After a few hours, Lu Ming finally recovered to his peak state. Then, he stood up and took a step forward without any hesitation. Boom! When he took this step, Lu Ming's body violently trembled. He felt a torrential storm of power slamming into his body, as if it was about to shatter his body. What a terrifying pressure! Lu Ming's eyes revealed a look of shock. All the bones in his body began to emit creaking sounds. He was enduring a terrifying pressure, as if it was about to send Lu Ming flying. How can this pressure stop me? Lu Ming's eyes flashed like lightning. With a low growl, he continued taking steps forward, resisting the terrifying force. After the second step, Lu Ming's body still trembled. As for the hearts of the desolate race, they also trembled. It was as if every step Lu Ming took was stepping on their hearts. After Lu Ming took the second step, he paused for a long period of time before taking the third step. At this point, the pressure from the external world was too strong. If it were an ordinary person at the large success stage of the Great Sage Realm, their body would probably explode instantly from the pressure, leaving nothing behind. At this point, Lu Ming's speed became very, very slow. Every step he took required him to stop for a long period of time, devouring ores to recover. However, Lu Ming's posture remained straight. His eyes remained firm. Although it was very slow, he was still moving forward. This process lasted for a total of 5 days. 5 days later, Lu Ming stepped onto the 900th step. He was still short of the final 100 steps. Here, Lu Ming continued sitting cross-legged and began recovering. It took him 3 days to recover. 3 days later, Lu Ming stood up. Everyone in the desolate race felt their hearts hanging in the air. Could Lu Ming continue moving forward? He wouldn't be blasted down when he reached the 901 step, would he? Boom! Finally, Lu Ming took a step forward. The ground quaked as Lu Ming's body trembled violently. Lu Ming's face suddenly turned snow-white. What a terrifying pressure! It's even stronger than the pressure from before. Furthermore, there's a pressure acting on my soul, and even a pressure acting on my laws. Lu Ming's mind flashed with thoughts. After the 900th step, the pressure he had to face was omnidirectional. It was too shocking. Lu Ming was nearly sent flying, but he managed to grit his teeth and withstand it. He withstood it! The desolate race and company were overjoyed. On this ancient azure stone path, every 100 steps was a threshold. The pressure would rise to a whole new level. Hence, the first step of every 100 steps was the most difficult. Once one failed to withstand it, they would be sent flying. And once they withstood the first step, it meant that they could withstand that level of pressure. Then, they could continue moving forward. Lu Ming had withstood the 9001st step, which meant that there was a high chance of him walking the ancient azure stone path. How could they not be happy? However, since ancient times, no one had been able to walk past the 900th step. They also did not know what the situation would be like after the 900th step. Hence, they were still extremely nervous, afraid that there would be an unforeseen event. After taking this step, Lu Ming stopped there. After a long while, he took another step. After taking the second step, Lu Ming's body continued to tremble, but he managed to withstand it. He stopped there to meditate. After a period of time, Lu Ming took a third step. As such, Lu Ming took a step every once in a while. When Lu Ming reached the 950th step, he suddenly sat down cross-legged and took out a large number of ores. What's going on? He's about to break through. A tribal elder exclaimed. Chapter 1867. Lu Ming's cultivation level was already nearing the peak of the Great Sage Realm. And this ancient road gave Lu Ming immense pressure. Under the immense pressure, it forced out Lu Ming's potential, allowing him to break through his shackles and enter the peak of the Great Sage Realm. Lu Ming began devouring large amounts of ores to stabilize his cultivation level. 2 days later, Lu Ming completed his breakthrough and continued forward. The pressure has become stronger, Lu Ming muttered. With his cultivation level breaking through, the pressure from the outside world had indeed become stronger. This ancient road would change the pressure according to the warrior's cultivation level. Only those with strength that far exceeded those at the same level could step onto it. The pressure had become stronger, but Lu Ming's cultivation level had also increased. The pressure he faced was no different from before. Lu Ming continued forward. This was a long process. From the 900th step to the 1000th step, Lu Ming's breakthrough took half a month. Dong! When Lu Ming stepped onto the 1000th step, the desolate race patriarch, Huang Li, and company revealed looks of ecstasy. He had finally stepped onto the 1000th step. How many years had it been? Finally, someone had traversed this ancient bluestone road. The treasure of their desolate race ancestor was about to appear. The pressure has disappeared. When Lu Ming stepped onto the 1000th step, the pressure from the outside world instantly disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming felt refreshed and extremely comfortable. My chaos laws have broken through a little. The chaos tribulation fingers should have reached 61% mastery. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. This trip had not been in vain. Following that, Lu Ming continued walking and came in front of the altar. Lu Ming, as long as you turn the altar, you will be able to open the ancestors' treasure. A patriarch reminded him, his eyes filled with anticipation. Lu Ming nodded. He grabbed the two sides of the altar and turned it forcefully. Ka-cha! The altar emitted a ka-cha sound. Following that, infinite light emitted from the altar. Following that, the light gathered, forming a circular halo. A sparkling stone flew out from the halo. Could it be a power condensation stone? One of the elders looked at the stone flying out of the circle of light. His body trembled slightly as he revealed an extremely excited expression. The other elders, Huang Li, and the others were also extremely excited. After the light circle flew out of the stone, it collapsed and disappeared. Power condensation stone? Lu Ming was curious. He held the stone in his hand. He didn't feel any weight, but he could feel a strange energy acting on his body. After that, Lu Ming returned along the ancient bluestone road. However, this time, the ancient bluestone road did not exert any pressure on him. Lu Ming took a step forward and arrived beside Huang Li and the others. Senior, here! Lu Ming handed the power condensation stone to an elder. The elder excitedly took it and carefully examined it. His old body was trembling from excitement. Power condensation stone, it really is the legendary power condensation stone. With the blessing of our ancestors, our tribe has finally found the power condensation stone. The desolate race elder held the power condensation stone in his hand and was extremely excited. The other elders were not much different. What use does this power condensation stone have to make these desolate race elders, who have lived for God knows how long, so excited? Lu Ming was extremely curious. Lu Ming, you still do not know the significance of the power condensation stone to our desolate race. This is a supreme treasure that can allow our desolate race to rise up. However, in the hands of others it is useless, Huang Li said as he explained the use of the power condensation stone. The desolate race was an ancient race. They had special physiques. Every person's physique was extremely strong, and they had immense strength. And what the desolate race cultivated was related to strength. All sorts of martial techniques, mystic techniques, divine powers, etc. They were all related to strength. The concepts and laws they understood were all related to strength. A large number of people understood the laws of strength. As for the desolate race, if they were exposed to the power condensation stone's illumination from a young age, they would be able to improve their physique. Their physique would be stronger, and their strength would be stronger. They would be able to better grasp the laws of strength, and they would even be able to easily control the laws of strength. The laws of strength were the laws of kings. If the desolate race were to produce a group of elites who could control the laws of strength, how terrifying would that be? After Lu Ming heard this, he was extremely shocked. It was no wonder the desolate race elders were so excited. This was a treasure that could really allow the desolate race to rise up. Lu Ming, our desolate race will never forget your kindness. A few of the desolate race elders bowed towards Lu Ming. Senior, please don't. Lu Ming hurriedly retreated. These desolate race elders had lived for an unknown number of years. Their cultivation levels were unfathomable, so he did not dare accept it. Following that, Lu Ming diverted the topic and said, Senior, the other two sacrificial altars. Lu Ming's gaze looked towards the other two ancient azure stone paths. Those two sacrificial altars cannot be opened yet. The second ancient azure stone path requires one to be at least at the martial emperor realm to enter. The third path probably requires an even higher cultivation level to enter. A desolate race elder explained. It requires one to be at least at the martial emperor realm to enter? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming, I hope that when your cultivation level is high in the future, you can help our desolate race a few more times. A desolate race elder said very politely. Since Lu Ming could pass the first ancient path, he could pass the second and third paths. It was just that his cultivation level was not high enough. They naturally wanted to build a good relationship with Lu Ming. Definitely. Lu Ming nodded. This was beneficial to both parties. It was a win-win situation. The desolate race needed Lu Ming's help, and if Lu Ming needed it in the future, he would similarly need the desolate race's help. To Lu Ming, there was nothing to lose, so why wouldn't he agree? Following that, they left and returned to the desolate race's meeting hall. A desolate race elder immediately took a few brute crystals and handed them to Lu Ming. With the brute crystals in hand, Lu Ming was naturally overjoyed. On the second day, the desolate race held a huge banquet to celebrate. At the same time, at the banquet, the desolate race conferred Lu Ming the title of an external race elder. His position was second only to the desolate race's patriarch, and he had great power. And the entire desolate race knew that Lu Ming had passed the ancient azure stone path, and helped the desolate race obtain the energy condensation stones. Naturally, no one objected, and they all supported Lu Ming wholeheartedly. 3 days later, Lu Ming bade farewell to the desolate race's elders. He had been in the ancient savage wilderness region for several months. He had obtained the brute crystals, so it was time to leave. Calculating the time, the celestial city's Yuan Shan Sacred Institute had been in session for 2 months. Lu Ming, my race has chosen a few elites. We plan on going out with you for training, how about it? In the desolate race's meeting hall, an elder said this. That's right. From what you said, there are many elites in the outside world, and king bodies are competing for supremacy. Letting them go out for training will allow them to go further. If they stay in the ancient savage wilderness region all day, they will really think they are invincible. Another external race elder said. This made Huang Li, who was beside him, blush. Before meeting Lu Ming, Huang Li was indeed very arrogant. He felt that he was the leader of the younger generation and was invincible. But ever since his battle with Lu Ming, he had completely lost his temper. All right, but there will probably be danger outside, Lu Ming said. Only with danger can you go further. Chapter 1868. Not long after, the desolate race selected 9 young elites. They planned on following Lu Ming to adventure and gain experience. Desolate forests and desolate land were among them. Among the 9 people, there were as many as 5 people whose spiritual bodies had reached the superior heavenly spiritual body. The other 4 people's spiritual bodies were the intermediate heavenly spiritual body. Each of them was very powerful, and their cultivation was at the Great Sage Peak or Great Sage Perfection. Lu Ming, how many people in the outside world know about the entrance to the ancient desolate sacred domain? At this moment, a tribe elder asked. Probably not many, at most a few people. Lu Ming recounted Ha Deng's matter. The desolate race has not fully emerged, so these people cannot be left alive. A tribe elder's eyes flashed. Lu Ming and I will go out and get rid of them, a middle-aged man said. He was the desolate race expert who had brought Lu Ming to meet the desolate race tribe elders in the cage battle arena. His cultivation level was at the martial emperor realm, and his name was Huang Su. All right, go ahead. The tribe elders nodded. The desolate race's exit was naturally not limited to the one that Lu Ming and company had entered previously. There were other exits, but this time, they still planned on exiting through that same exit. Everyone rose into the air and soon after, they arrived at the exit. The desolate race expert opened the exit, and a whirlpool appeared in the sky. Everyone rushed into the whirlpool and disappeared. The next moment, Lu Ming realized that they had appeared above the lake they had entered previously. Sweeping his gaze, there was no one around. Senior Huang Su, why don't you enter my mountain river diagram for the time being? I will secretly head to Desolate City, so as to not alert the enemy and scare Hajing and company away, Lu Ming suggested. The Desolate Race people were too burly, so they would definitely attract attention when walking on the streets. As for Hajing, he had entered the ancient Desolate Sacred Domain before. If they swaggered into Desolate City, they might alert Hajing, causing him to escape early. Huang Su and company nodded. Lu Ming kept Huang Su, Desolate Force and company into the mountain river diagram. Only Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and Bubbles headed for Desolation City. When Lu Ming and the others entered Desolate City again, they felt that the atmosphere was completely different from the last time. Now, the atmosphere of the entire barren city seemed to be very depressing. The streets were also desolate. Many shops were closed, and the restaurants were deserted. Boom! When Lu Ming's group passed by a majestic mansion, a rumbling sound came from within. A figure broke through the wall and flew out of the mansion, crashing heavily to the ground and coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. This was a white-haired old man. He was very old, and the wrinkles on his face were piled up like a mountain. This reminded Lu Ming of Uncle Kong. Whoosh! Whoosh! Following that, several figures rushed out of the mansion. One of them was a middle-aged man who stepped on the old man's face, causing his head to slam heavily into the ground. Grandpa sure! A delicate cry rang out. It was only then that Lu Ming realized that the other burly man was holding on to a young and beautiful lady. Miss, let her go. Otherwise, when the master and the others return, they won't let you go. The old man ignored his injuries and struggled to get up. He wanted to help the young woman, but the woman was kicked away by the middle-aged man. Your master still wants to come back? He should have died in the ancient desolate region. So what if he comes back? Do you think my Ha family is afraid of your Huang family? The middle-aged man sneered. He looked coldly at the old man and said, Old man, let me send you on your way. After saying that, a battle saber appeared in his hand and he slashed at the old man. However, the saber did not hit the old man because a force flew out from the side and knocked his battle saber away. Who is it? The middle-aged man shouted. His eyes were like lightning as they fell on Lu Ming. Brat, was it you? The middle-aged man said coldly. Looks like you're not blind. Lu Ming smiled. Brat, you're courting death. How dare you meddle in my Ha family's affairs? You're courting death. The middle-aged man walked towards Lu Ming. When he glanced at Autumn Moon, a look of surprise flashed across his face. He said, This woman is not bad. Take her and give her to the young master. I'm sure he'll reward you handsomely. He did not know Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Although Lu Ming had caused quite a commotion in the desolate city, not many people had seen Lu Ming and the others. Whoosh! The middle-aged man's saber was like lightning as it slashed at Lu Ming. However, in the next moment, he felt a chill on his neck. Then, he saw a headless corpse holding a battle saber running forward a few steps before falling to the ground. That was clearly his body. Then, he felt his vision turn black and lost consciousness. After Lu Ming killed the middle-aged man, his body flickered a few times. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying force attacked the remaining Ha family members. These people did not have the slightest strength to resist, and were directly killed by Lu Ming. Only one of them survived because Lu Ming deliberately left him alive. However, he was so frightened that his face turned pale. His body trembled as he collapsed on the ground. A stench came from his crotch. He was so frightened that he wet his pants. Grandpa sure, are you all right? The young woman quickly ran to the old man and asked with concern. Miss, I'm fine. The old man shook his head. Then, with the support of the young woman, he walked to Lu Ming and bowed. This old man thanks young master for saving my life. There's no need to thank me. I happen to have some conflicts with the Ha family. Senior, what happened in the desolate city? Why do I feel that something is wrong? Lu Ming asked. Sigh, it's because of the ancient savage desolate region. The old man immediately gave a simple account of what had happened in the desolate city during this period. It turned out that the experts of the 6 strongest factions in the desolate city had followed Ha Jing to the ancient, savage, desolate region. However, only Ha Jing and Hamodi had returned. The experts of the other 6 factions had not returned. As a result, the situation in the desolate city had completely changed. The Ha family was now the strongest. In the past, although Ha Jing was the #1 expert in the desolate city with a quasi-emperor cultivation, the other 6 factions could still contend with the Ha family if they joined forces. However, no one could contend with the Ha family now. Not long ago, the Ha family had started to sweep through all the factions in the desolate city. Anyone who resisted was killed without mercy. The Ha family had wiped out the other 6 factions. The old man and the young woman belonged to the Huang family of the 6 factions. The young woman was also the daughter of the Huang family. Hamodi was lustful by nature and wanted to take the daughter of the Huang family as his concubine. That was why the scene today had happened. Lu Ming suddenly understood. Almost all the people of the other factions had died in the cage battle arena of the ancient, savage, desolate region. It was not strange for such a scene to occur in the desolate city. "Young master, you should leave quickly. Leave the desolate city. You killed the people of the Ha family. They will not let you off," the old man advised kindly. "Leave? I don't want to leave. You, quickly go back and report this." With that, Lu Ming looked at the only person of the Ha family who had not died. "Ah?" Chapter 1869. The old man and the young lady of the Huang clan were also stunned, their faces pale. The head of the Ha clan, Ha Jing, was a quasi-emperor expert. They did not believe that Lu Ming and the rest could fight against a quasi-emperor at such a young age. "Young master, don't be careless. That Ha Jing is—" The old man was worried and wanted to persuade Lu Ming. "It's fine." Lu Ming waved his hand and then looked at the Ha clan member. "Why aren't you leaving? Do you want to die?" The Ha clan member was so frightened that his face turned pale. He ran back to the Ha clan and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The old man and the young lady of the Huang clan were also pale and anxious. "Senior, if you have something to do, you can leave first," Lu Ming said with a smile. Then, young master, take care." The old man did not dare to stay here. He cupped his fists at Lu Ming and then quickly left with the young lady of the Huang clan, heading out of the desolate city. Lu Ming and the rest waited quietly here. Who are they? After killing the Ha clan's people, they actually didn't leave and dared to wait here. How bold. This is called a newborn calf not fearing a tiger. They want to be heroes, but they don't know how terrifying the Ha clan is. When the experts of the Ha clan arrive, they will regret it. Many people in the surroundings had seen the scene just now. At this time, they were watching from afar and discussing in low voices. At this time, in a courtyard of the Ha clan, Hamodi was naked and lying on top of 2 young and beautiful women. Although the 2 women looked humiliated, they still served Hamodi wholeheartedly. Hamodi felt so good that it could overturn the sky. These 2 young women were the young ladies of other major factions. In the past, he could only look at them and it was not so easy to get his hands on them. But now, they served him wholeheartedly and allowed him to play with them. Hamodi was incomparably excited as his palm touched the smooth skin. A certain part of his body trembled and spurted out, causing Hamodi to let out a beast-like roar. He suddenly thought of Lu Ming and felt that he should thank Lu Ming. If it weren't for Lu Ming, how could the experts of the other forces enter the ancient desolate sacred realm and never return? Desolate City would become the Ha clan's sole power. When had he ever had such a good time? He had decided to toy with all the beauties in Desolate City. Just as his imagination was running wild, a loud shout came from outside the courtyard. Young master, bad news! Hamadi's face instantly darkened. He had already instructed them not to disturb him when he was working. Now that the shouting outside had completely ruined his mood, it made him very unhappy. After putting on his clothes, Hamodi walked out of the courtyard with a gloomy expression. The middle-aged man who had been released by Lu Ming was anxiously standing outside the courtyard. What is it? Why are you so flustered? Hamidi asked with a dark expression. Young master, you asked us to capture the young lady of the Huang family, but someone meddled in our business and saved her. He even killed the others. Young master, you must avenge them. Who is so daring to kill a member of my Ha clan? Cold killing intent flashed in Hamidi's eyes. Now that the Ha clan dominated Desolate City, no one dared to go against them. Yet someone dared to kill a member of the Ha clan. They must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. It's a young man and a young woman with a little girl. The middle-aged man described the appearance of Lu Ming and the others. What? It's them? How is that possible? Hamidi's pupils shrank as he cried out in disbelief. Upon hearing that, he knew that it was Lu Ming, Chiu Yu, and Bubbles. But didn't Lu Ming and the others enter the ancient desolate realm with them? Why did they come out? Could it be that Lu Ming and the others had followed Ha Jing out of the ancient desolate realm? Hamidi felt that it was very likely. Back then, Lu Ming and the others had not been very far from the exit of the ancient desolate realm. It was very likely that after they had escaped, Lu Ming and the others had also escaped. Their luck is pretty good, but since they have escaped, they should find a place to hide. How dare they meddle in the affairs of my Ha clan? They are courting death. The killing intent in Hamidi's eyes intensified. Back then, he had been taught a miserable lesson by Lu Ming. Later, Lu Ming had captured him and used him to threaten his father. He had lost all face, so how could he not take revenge? He had thought that Lu Ming and the others had died in the ancient desolate realm. But he had not expected that Lu Ming and the others were still alive and had dared to come out and ruin his plans. Weren't they courting death? Young master, should we report this to the patriarch? The middle-aged man asked. No need. Father was injured back then and has only recovered recently. There is no need to alarm him over such a small matter. I will go and find a few elders. That will be enough. With that, Hamodi stepped forward. Lu Ming and the others were still outside the Huang clan residence. In the distance, more and more onlookers were gathering. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He looked forward and muttered, "They're here!" Whoosh! Whoosh! Several streaks of light tore through the sky and flew over at shocking speed. In the next moment, the streaks of light faded, revealing 5 or 6 figures. The person in the lead was Hamidi. Beside him were several elders, each of them exuding a terrifying aura. 2 peak utmost saints and 3 peak utmost saints. What a terrifying lineup. Hamidi actually sent out such a powerful lineup. Who are that young man and woman? Someone exclaimed in the distance. Peak utmost saints and peak utmost saints were definitely peak existences in the desolate city. But now, so many of them had been sent out just for a young man and woman. Haha, there's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. Kid, I will make you suffer today. When Hamodi saw Lu Ming, he burst into laughter. There was a cold glint in his eyes, especially when he looked at Chiu Yu. Of course, he didn't dare to be careless. He followed closely behind a peak utmost saint. He would never forget how Lu Ming and the others had strangely captured him in front of Hamidi. Haha, is that so? Do you know why I'm here? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Oh? Are you waiting for me? Hamidi asked. You have some brains. Not bad. I'm waiting for you to kill you, Lu Ming said. Haha, kill me? Kid, you have some battle strength, but I came prepared this time. Let's see how you can kill me. Go, cripple them for me. With that last sentence, Hamodi gave an order to the elders. Kill! Kill! The elders emitted cold, murderous intent. A total of 4 elders stepped forward. One of them was a perfected absolute saint, while the other 3 were peak absolute saints. This lineup was more than enough to kill Lu Ming and the rest. The 4 experts' terrifying auras suppressed Lu Ming and the others. They sealed off the area, afraid that Lu Ming and the others would escape. Chapter 1870. Looking at the calm expressions of Lu Ming and the others, Hamodi suddenly had a bad feeling. No, they might be able to kill an absolute saint in the greater success stage, but they're no match for a peak absolute saint. Plus, there's a peak absolute saint as well. Hamodi shook his head and threw the bad feeling out of his mind. That young man and woman are doomed. The Ha family is powerful and dominates the barren city. How dare that young man and woman provoke the Ha family? That woman is doomed. She's so pretty, but she's going to be ruined by Hamodi. Many people sighed in the distance. During this period of time, the Ha family had been domineering and overbearing, dominating the desolate city. Many people had suffered. However, no one dared to voice out their anger. At this moment, they only stood far away and discussed softly. At this moment, Lu Ming's glabella shone and a picture flew out. It was the mountain river picture. A tall and burly figure stepped out of the mountain river picture. Seeing this figure, Hamodi's pupils shrank. His eyes were filled with fear as he shouted, "Oh no, retreat!" It was Huang Su who had come out of the mountain river picture. Hamodi had entered the ancient barren city and met the desolate race. He immediately recognized that Huang Su was the one who had attacked them. But it was too late. Boom! Boom! Huang Su punched out a few times. Terrifying fist strength tore through the air as if it could crush everything. The terrifying might made the three top absolute saints, and the one in the absolute saint realm of the absolute saint realm of the absolute saint realm turn pale. But they couldn't escape from a martial emperor. The fist light tore through the void and crushed through. The four experts didn't even have time to scream before their bodies exploded. Under the destructive power, they turned into ashes. Hamodi was almost scared to death. "Run! Run!" Hamodi yelled as if he had gone mad. He told the other absolute saint of the peak to take him and run away. However, a huge hand reached out from the ruins and grabbed at the air. A huge palm appeared out of nowhere, grabbing Hamodi and the saint expert. Terrifying energy surged into them, and their cultivations were both crippled. Hamodi screamed miserably. Everyone in the surroundings was dumbfounded. They simply could not believe what they were seeing. Two absolute saints at the peak of the absolute saint realm and three absolute saints at the peak of the absolute saint realm. This was a powerful force, but Huang Su had crushed them like ants. "Martial Emperor, this is a martial emperor! Who are those young men and women? He actually has a martial emperor backing him. He must be a genius from a powerful faction outside of Desolate City. No wonder he is so calm. It turns out that he has a martial emperor with him." The eyes of even more people lit up. Would the appearance of a martial emperor change the current situation of Desolate City? Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared beside Hamodi. His saint power was like a saber. With a slash, he killed the perfected absolute saint. "Don't kill me, don't kill me!" Hamodi almost peed in his pants as he let out a shrill scream. "Don't worry, I won't kill you!" Lu Ming lifted Hamodi by the neck and said, "Let's go to the Ha clan." After saying that, he walked towards the Ha clan. Mid-autumn moon, desolate ruins. "We're going to the Ha clan. There's going to be a good show. I wonder if the martial emperor will attack the Ha clan. Let's go and take a look." The people in the distance were looking forward to it, hoping that the martial emperor would attack the Ha clan. If he could destroy the Ha clan, the situation of Desolate City would change again. This place was not far from the Ha clan. Soon, they arrived in front of the Ha clan's residence. "Ha Jing, come out and die!" Lu Ming shouted. His voice reverberated throughout the entire Ha clan's residence. "Who's here to die?" A loud roar came from the Ha clan's residence. Then, a terrifying aura burst out. A ray of light flashed, and Ha Jing appeared in the air. "Kid, it's you?" "Hamodi." Ha Jing looked around and saw Lu Ming. His eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. Then, he saw Hamodi in Lu Ming's hand. "Kid, let go of Hamodi. Otherwise, I'll tear you to pieces," Ha Jing shouted. But halfway through, he stopped abruptly. It was as if something was stuck in his throat. His eyes stared behind Lu Ming and at Huang Su. He had not noticed Huang Su earlier. Now that he saw Huang Su, his eyes were filled with fear. Swoosh! The next moment, Hajing turned around and fled. How could he still care about Hamodi? Trying to run away in front of me? Huang Su's cold voice sounded. Then, he took a step forward. Then, a huge foot formed above the Ha clan's residence. It was like the foot of a deity, covering the entire Ha clan. Under the huge foot, Hajing was like a small boat in a storm that could be destroyed at any time. He roared. The river of law surrounded his body. He erupted with all his strength, wanting to break out of the area covered by the huge foot. But it was all in vain. The huge foot stomped down. Hajing screamed in pain. His body was torn apart and turned into ashes, dissipating between heaven and earth. A quasi-emperor died just like that. A martial emperor was too strong. Those below the martial emperor realm were like ants in front of a martial emperor. They could not contend at all. It was the same even for a quasi-emperor. After killing Hajing, the huge foot did not stop and continued to stomp down. Beams of light rushed out from the Ha clan's residence, wanting to escape. But under the huge foot, all of this was just wishful thinking. One figure after another exploded in the air, dying on the spot. Boom! The huge foot stepped into the Ha clan's residence. The vast residence exploded and turned into ashes. The entire Ha clan was wiped out from the world. All right, this way, no one will know the entrance to the ancient wilderness region. Huang Su smiled. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. A trace of reluctance flashed in Autumn Moon's eyes. With one move, the entire Ha clan was wiped out. This was beyond Lu Ming's expectations. Originally, he thought that Huang Su would only kill some of the Ha clan's higher-ups. He did not expect Huang Su to be more direct and wipe out the entire Ha clan with one move. Then, Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The martial world was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. It was very cruel. There might be many innocent people in this world, but in Huang Su's eyes, why would he care? Perhaps in his eyes, ordinary people were like ants. If not for his talent, which had gained the attention of the desolate race and helped them greatly, he might also be an ant in Huang Su's eyes. In such a world, Lu Ming had to constantly become stronger so that he would not be treated like an ant by others and easily wiped out. Let's go! Lu Ming sighed in his heart and turned to leave. On this day, the overlord of the desolate city, the Ha clan, was wiped out. Their entire family was wiped out. On this day, it was rumored that Hamodi had offended a peerless elite that he should not have offended. This person brought a martial emperor and wiped out the Ha clan. Chapter 1871. Everything in Desolate City had nothing to do with Lu Ming anymore. Half a month later, Lu Ming and the rest returned to the ancient Moon Holy Land, Great Development Pill Palace. Huang Su did not go with them. After Huang Su destroyed the Ha family, he returned to the ancient sacred region. Lu Ming brought Huang Li and the rest to the Great Development Pill Palace. After returning to the Great Development Pill Palace, Lu Ming immediately made a trip to the Phoenix Palace. Sure enough, he found out that the Origin Mountain Holy Court in Celestial City had been held 2.5 months ago. Almost all the famous geniuses in the ancient Moon Holy Land had rushed to Celestial City. Huang Ling, Long Qin, and the rest naturally also went to Celestial City. Without the competition of the younger generation of geniuses, the ancient Moon Holy Land suddenly quieted down. But one could imagine how lively and intense Celestial City would be. Lu Ming also planned to go to the Origin Mountain Holy Court in Celestial City. When Huang Li and the rest knew that the geniuses of the Origin Mountain Holy Court were gathering, they all revealed a strong fighting spirit and were extremely excited. The main purpose of them following Lu Ming out was to gain experience and clash with other geniuses to improve themselves. Moreover, the desolate race loved to fight. With so many geniuses gathering, they were naturally excited. Lu Ming and the rest did not delay. On the third day after returning to the Great Development Pill Palace, they went to the Phoenix Palace and took the Phoenix Palace's teleportation array to Celestial City. As for Ouyang Moli, Lu Ming let him continue to stay in the Great Development Pill Palace and cultivate with Uncle Kong. And after this period of cultivation, Xuanixin's cultivation had also broken through to the Bright Sage realm. Lu Ming brought Xuanixin to Celestial City. Celestial City was located in the central region of the Origin Mountain land. It was the head of the Origin Mountain 9 Great Holy Lands. Legend had it that it was built by an invincible celestial emperor powerhouse. The cultivation conditions were unique. But that celestial emperor powerhouse was said to have fallen a long time ago. Later on, Celestial City was occupied by many powerful forces and developed into an incomparably powerful force. In the 8 directions of Celestial City, there were 8 citadels. If the forces in the other regions of the Origin Mountain land wanted to reach Celestial City, they could only teleport to one of the 8 citadels. Lu Ming and the rest teleported to the southernmost citadel, then flew towards the Celestial City. Even from afar, they could see a vast and boundless city ahead. It was filled with a majestic aura. When they approached the Celestial City, they could feel a terrifying pressure permeating the air. It was as if there was a supreme existence residing in the Celestial City. When they walked into Celestial City, what entered their eyes were all ancient buildings. It was unknown how long they had been preserved for. They asked someone to inquire about the location of Yuan Mountain Holy Courtyard. Currently, there was no one in Celestial City who didn't know about the Primordial Mountain Holy Courtyard. It was jointly created by several great emperors. Geniuses gathered in the entire Yuan Mountain, attracting the attention of countless people. They easily found out the location of Yuanshan Holy Courtyard and headed towards it. The Celestial City was incomparably majestic and vast. It was just a city, but its surface area was much larger than the ancient Moon Holy Ground. They spent a lot of time to find Yuan Mountain Holy Courtyard. On the tall and majestic gate, there were 4 words written on it: Origin Mountain Holy Court. "Stop! What are you doing here?" A middle-aged man blocked Lu Ming and the rest's path. "Senior, we are here to join the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard." Lu Ming cupped his fists and told the middle-aged man the purpose of his visit. "You're only here to join the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard now? The Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard has been held for more than 2 months. Don't you know?" The middle-aged man's face sank and said, "Senior, we were delayed because we had something important to do. As soon as the matter was done, we rushed over." "Please make an exception," Lu Ming said politely. "It's not impossible to make an exception. The great emperor has ordered that those who come late can also enter the holy courtyard, but the requirements are higher." "Show me your cultivation and let me see," the middle-aged man said. "All right." Lu Ming and the rest nodded. Then, one by one, their aura spread out. "Great Sage Realm, what? So many Great Sage Realm?" When the middle-aged man sensed it, his face suddenly changed. Lu Ming's group of more than a dozen people were almost all Great Sage Realm cultivators, and all of them were above the peak of the Great Sage Realm. Only Xuanixin was a Bright Sage Realm cultivator. Especially Huang Li and the others, each of them was burly, and the shortest one was more than 2 meters tall. Which force did they come from? After taking a deep breath, the middle-aged man calmed down and said, "I am a teacher of the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard. Let me tell you, the minimum requirement to join the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard is to reach the Bright Sage Realm, and your spiritual body must also be a heavenly spiritual body. So, I will also check your spiritual bodies. Come with me." After saying that, the middle-aged man went inside the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard, and Lu Ming and the rest followed. When they walked into the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard, at a glance, there were magnificent divine mountains in the depths of the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard, towering into the clouds. On the divine mountains, there were various buildings and palaces built. And some flat lands, there were also various buildings built. Although every inch of land in Celestial City was expensive, and it was impossible for ordinary forces to live in it, the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard was jointly built by several great emperors. Naturally, it occupied a vast territory, and no one dared to say a word. Soon, they came to a hall. In the center of the hall, there was a crystal-like stone tablet. This crystal tablet was refined by the great emperors. It can detect the spiritual body's level. One by one, walk into the crystal tablet, and I will have a way to know your spiritual body's level," the middle-aged man said. "Let me go first." Huang Li left the ancient sacred realm for the first time, and he was very curious about everything. He was the first to step forward and walked in front of the crystal tablet. The crystal tablet immediately emitted a light, enveloping Huang Li. Then the crystal tablet emitted a strange light. "High-grade heavenly spiritual body!" The middle-aged man was a little surprised, and then a book appeared in his hand, and said, "What is your name? I need to register your information." "Huang Li." Huang Li reported his name, age, etc. "Well, you can enter the Origin Mountain Holy Courtyard, next." After the middle-aged man filled in the information, he looked at the others. Huang Li retreated, and Huang Di went forward. "Another high-grade heavenly spiritual body!" The middle-aged man stared. Although he had seen countless elites in this period of time, those with a high-grade heavenly spiritual body were few and far between. He never expected that there would be two of them today. After he registered Huang Di's information, another youth from the desolate race came forward. "It's still a high-grade heavenly spiritual body!" The middle-aged man drew a cold gasp. For two high-grade heavenly spiritual bodies to appear consecutively, and at the same time, this was incredible. However, his surprise did not end there. Following that, his surprise turned into shock. Among the 9 desolate race elites, 5 had high-grade heavenly spiritual bodies, and 4 had middle-grade heavenly spiritual bodies. As for Lu Ming and Autumn Moon, they had high-grade heavenly spiritual bodies. When Bubble went up for the test, it showed that she had a high-grade heavenly spiritual body. This left the middle-aged man dumbfounded, and his heart was in turmoil. Who were these people? There were so many high-grade heavenly spiritual bodies. Were there any king bodies among them? Chapter 1872. Finally, when it was Xuanixin's turn, he let out a sigh of relief. Low-grade heaven spiritual body. Xuanixin's original spirit body was not a heaven spirit body. However, before Lu Ming went to the ancient sun's sacred land, he had refined Xuanixin's spirit body with the Great Expansion Cauldron, allowing Xuanixin's spirit body to reach a low-grade heaven spirit body. "Well, the test is over. You can all join the Origin Mountain Holy Court. Wait for me here." After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he turned around and left. Not long after, he returned. With a wave of his hand, more than a dozen jade tokens appeared in the air and flew to Lu Ming and the others. "This is your identity token. Take it, it means that you are a member of the Origin Mountain Holy Court. Also, the Origin Mountain Holy Court is very big and spacious, so you can choose your residence at will. Those mountains you saw before, as long as no one lives there, you can choose them," the middle-aged man said. "Thank you, teacher." Lu Ming and the others took it and thanked him with cupped fists. "Well, there is one more thing. I want to remind you that the Origin Mountain Holy Court does not forbid fighting, killing, or crippling the other party's cultivation. Everything else is up to you," the middle-aged man warned. Lu Ming and the others nodded. The geniuses who joined the Origin Mountain Holy Court were the top geniuses from all over the world. The weakest of them was a heaven spiritual body with the potential to become an emperor. If fighting was not allowed, with so many geniuses fighting, they would suffer heavy losses. However, fighting was not allowed. This could motivate the geniuses and put pressure on them, forcing them to continue to improve. "Well, you can go now." The middle-aged man waved his hand, and Lu Ming and the others left. Then, Lu Ming took out a voice transmission jade token and sent a voice transmission to Long Chen and Huang Ling. Soon, a few figures flashed over. It was Huang Ling and Long Chen. There were also a few familiar faces, Mu Qingxue and Yi Dongfang of the Thunder God sect. "Lu Ming! Brother Lu!" Several people greeted Lu Ming and the others. "Lu Ming, you're finally here. Who are they?" Huang Ling smiled and looked at Huang Li and the others with a surprised look. "Where do you live?" Let's talk while we walk, Lu Ming said. Some of our acquaintances live on a mountain peak. I'll take you there, Huang Ling said. After that, the group of them headed towards the depths of the Yuanshan Sacred Academy. Not long after, they arrived at a mountain peak. On this mountain peak, there were many courtyards. When Lu Ming and the others arrived, several figures flew out. These people were all geniuses from the Phoenix Palace, the Divine Elephant Sect, and Mu Qingshue's sect. They were all on good terms with each other, and lived on the same mountain peak. Everyone greeted Lu Ming and the others. Then, they landed in a courtyard. Lu Ming introduced Huang Li and the others. Of course, Lu Ming did not mention that Huang Li and company were members of the Desolate Race. After all, the Desolate Race had yet to appear. You also control the law of force? Huang Li looked at Long Qin. His eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. The law of strength erupted from his body, and he was filled with terrifying power. A powerful aura exploded from Long Qin's body as he stared at the power of desolation. He activated the power of desolation law and revealed his fighting spirit. It's a pity that your cultivation is still a little lacking. Once you break through to the great sage perfection, let's have a good fight. Huang Li licked his lips. His fighting spirit was even stronger. That's what I want. Long Chen's eyes were filled with a blazing light. The law of kings was the top law between heaven and earth. In ordinary times, the king physique was extremely rare. Only in the current golden age would there be a situation where the king physique contended for supremacy. However, for the same king physique to appear in the same era, or even more, was even rarer. It was rare since ancient times. Long Qin and Huang Li both controlled the law of force. When they met, there was no reason for them not to fight. Moreover, when the two of them fought with the same king physique, it was extremely beneficial to their cultivation. This big guy is also a king physique. The other geniuses from the Phoenix Palace and the Divine Elephant Sect looked at Huang Li in shock. Long Qin and Huang Li looked at each other, and then retracted their aura. Everyone chatted for a while. Lu Ming mainly asked about the situation of the Sacred Academy of Yuanshan. The geniuses of the Sacred Academy of Yuanshan are beyond our imagination. Not only are there geniuses from the 9 great holy lands, but there are also geniuses from many emperor-class factions. Even those ancient races that have been living in seclusion have appeared and joined the Sacred Academy of Yuanshan, Huang Ling said. Ancient races? Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and thought of the Desolate Race. Those ancient races are called the Ancient Races. They are forces that have been around for countless years. They have existed since ancient times. Many of them are not in the 9 great holy lands. Instead, they live in their own small worlds. Their heritage is extremely deep. No one knows how strong they are. This time, for some reason, many of the ancient races have appeared. Their talent and strength are extremely shocking. There are many king physiques, Huang Ling said again. The ancient races? Huang Li, and the others' eyes were filled with fighting spirit. It seems that the Sacred Academy of Yuanshan is really a gathering place. All the geniuses from the 9 great holy lands have gathered. There are even ancient races geniuses. Interesting. Lu Ming's eyes were also filled with fighting spirit. Huang Ling, Long Qin, get out here. At this moment, a loud roar came from outside. It's Mo Lang and the others. Huang Ling, Long Qin, and the others' faces suddenly turned ugly. Damn it. These guys really don't give up. Someone growled. Huang Ling, Long Qin, get out here. That voice came again. Lu Ming, you guys sit for a while. I'll go and settle this. Long Qin stepped out and walked out of the courtyard. I'll go too. Huang Ling followed him out. Some of the geniuses from Phoenix Palace and Divine Elephant Sect also followed. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He did not get up. Instead, he spread out his spiritual consciousness and saw everything outside. Outside, Mo Lang, the Golden Crow's second prince, and some other geniuses were there. There were 7 or 8 of them. They were all top geniuses from the ancient moon's sacred ground. They stood in the sky and looked down at Long Chen, Huang Ling, and the others. Huang Ling, Long Chen, have you guys thought about it? Our patience is limited. Mo Lang sneered. You want us to join you? Impossible. Get out of here. Long Chen scolded. Humph. You should know the consequences of rejecting us. The Wind Tribe wants you to join us because they think highly of you. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The Golden Crow's second prince's body was covered in the divine sun fire. His eyes flashed sharply. Don't you understand human language? Get out of here. Long Chen shouted as a powerful aura erupted from his body. During this period, Long Chen's cultivation had also broken through and reached the peak of the Great Saint Realm. He was not far from the Great Saint Realm of the Great Saint Realm. Obviously, he had made great progress in the past few months. Long Chen stepped into the air and walked toward Mo Lang and the others. Mo Lang and the others' faces changed drastically. Chapter 1873. At that moment, the cry of a phoenix could be heard. Huang Ling was bathed in the undying flames as a phoenix soared into the sky. Huang Ling's cultivation was similar to Long Chen's, reaching the peak of the Supreme Saint Realm. The other sky prides of the Phoenix Palace and the Divine Elephant sect also unleashed their auras as they stared at Mo Lang and the others with hostility. Mo Lang and the others' expressions changed as they subconsciously retreated. Stubborn. Don't think that you can fight against the Wind Clan's sky prides with your cultivation. Just you wait. Let's go! The Golden Crow's second prince said coldly before leaving with Mo Lang and the others. Huang Ling and Long Chen looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Then, they returned to the courtyard. Huang Ling, Long Chen, what's going on? What's the Wind Clan's background? Lu Ming asked. The Wind Clan is an ancient clan, and the place where they live in seclusion is the ancient moon's sacred ground. Some time ago, the Wind Clan appeared, and their sky prides came out and joined the Origin Mountain's sacred ground. The Wind Clan's sky prides are extremely domineering. They want to establish a force in the Origin Mountain's sacred ground and force the other sky prides of the ancient moon's sacred ground to join them. Mo Lang, the Purple Extreme sect, the Golden Crow clan, and other forces all joined the Wind Clan's camp. Only we didn't join the ancient moon's sacred ground. Huang Ling explained. They're too domineering. It's our freedom to join them or not, but the Wind Clan said that if we don't join them, we won't be able to stay in the Origin Mountain's sacred ground. Mu Qingxue added with an ugly expression. The Wind Clan? The ancient moon's sacred ground has an ancient clan living in seclusion. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a sharp light. How strong are the sky prides of the Wind Clan? Lu Ming asked. The strongest sky prides of the Wind Clan is called Wu Fengchen. He has a king body, and his spirit body is also a superior sky spirit body. He has mastered the law of destruction heavenly wind and has already reached the Supreme Saint Realm. He's the strongest sky prides of the Origin Mountain's sacred ground, Huang Ling said. A Supreme Saint King body, no wonder he's so arrogant. Lu Ming frowned slightly. He had a king body and had reached the absolute Saint Realm. His battle prowess was definitely terrifying. At this moment, there was a sharp cry in the distant sky. A golden ray of light flew toward the place where Lu Ming and the rest were staying at a terrifying speed. It was a three-legged golden crow. When it spread its wings, it was at least 100 meters long. Its entire body was bathed in the divine fire of the great sun, making it look like a sun. It's the Golden Crow Crown Prince. He's probably going to deal with Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others. The Feng clan wants to unify the geniuses of the ancient moon holy ground. It is obvious that they have taken a fancy to Huang Ling and Long Chen's talents. However, although the two of them are talented, their cultivation levels are still low. I am afraid that they will not be able to contend against the Feng clan. Let's go take a look. Many geniuses on the nearby mountain peaks sensed it and flew into the sky to watch from afar. The three-legged golden crow was extremely fast. In just a few breaths' time, it had reached the place where Lu Ming and the others were staying. With a flap of its wings, A large amount of divine sunfire poured down on Lu Ming and the others. At this time, Lu Ming and the others were chatting. Suddenly, everyone's faces changed. Divine sunfire, damn it! Huang Ling and Long Qin shouted angrily at the same time. They shot into the sky and attacked, extinguishing the divine sunfire. Lu Ming, Huang Li, and the others' expressions changed. They were not in a hurry to attack. Caw! A loud cry resounded in the sky. A young man in a golden robe appeared in the sky. His eyes were like lightning, and he was extremely domineering. Behind him, a pair of golden crow wings flapped slowly. A terrifying aura enveloped the entire mountain peak. Absolute Saint Realm. Lu Ming's heart jumped. This three-legged golden crow's cultivation was at the Absolute Saint Realm. The Golden Crow Crown Prince. Huang Ling, Long Qin, and the others whispered. Their eyes were solemn. The Golden Crow Crown Prince was extremely famous in the ancient Moon's sacred ground. Before the Feng clan appeared, he was one of the strongest geniuses in the ancient Moon's sacred ground. Especially after joining the Origin Mountain sacred ground, he had used the resources of the Origin Mountain sacred ground to break through to the Absolute Saint Realm. Whoosh! Whoosh! Behind the Golden Crow Crown Prince, more than a dozen figures appeared. It was Mo Lang and the others. Huang Ling, Long Qin, I advise you to surrender and join us. Don't make any unnecessary resistance. You should know that resistance is futile. Mo Lang said coldly with a haughty expression. If you want to be the dogs of the Feng clan, go ahead. We're not interested. Long Qin said. How dare you! The Golden Crow Crown Prince flapped his wings, and flames spread out. He looked even more majestic. He glanced at Long Qin and Huang Ling coldly and said, Although I can't kill you in the Origin Mountain sacred ground, I can still severely injure you. If you don't agree, I'll beat you up every time I see you. I'll make sure you can't stay in the Origin Mountain sacred ground. A sick bird. How arrogant. Did you open the Origin Mountain sacred ground? A mocking voice could be heard from one of the courtyards. Who's there? The Golden Crow Crown Prince's face darkened as he looked at the courtyard. He dared to call him a sick bird. Courting death. Then, more than a dozen figures stepped out. The one in front was Lu Ming, followed by Huang Li, Qiu Yu, and the others. Lu Ming! Mo Lang, the Golden Crow's second prince, and the others' faces suddenly changed. So you're Lu Ming? The Golden Crow Crown Prince's eyes turned colder. That's right. Lu Ming smiled. Good, very good. If I wasn't in Celestial City, how could you behave so atrociously in the Ancient Moon's sacred ground? I thought you wouldn't dare to come to the Ancient Moon's sacred ground. Since you're here, I'll teach you a lesson today and avenge my ninth brother. A cold, murderous intent flashed in the Golden Crow Crown Prince's eyes. If it wasn't for the sacred ground's prohibition of killing, he would have killed Lu Ming. However, even if he couldn't kill Lu Ming, he could still humiliate him. He could trample on Lu Ming in front of everyone and make him unable to raise his head in the Origin Mountain sacred ground. Boom! Boom! The Golden Crow Crown Prince continued to step forward. The great sun divine fire on his body became even hotter. The flames filled the sky and his aura was wild as he pressed down on Lu Ming. Huang Ling, Long Qin, and the others unleashed their auras and were ready to fight. I didn't expect to meet such a character. Leave this bird to me. Behind Lu Ming, Huang Li grinned. His eyes were filled with a strong battle intent as he stepped out and walked toward the Golden Crow Crown Prince. Lu Ming stood still. If Huang Li wanted to fight, then he would let him move. You're merely at the Great Sage Realm. Kneel down! The Golden Crow Crown Prince looked arrogant as he glanced at Huang Li. He threw out a palm and flames gathered to form a giant flaming palm that slammed down on Huang Li. Kneel down! Sick bird, you're the one who's going to kneel down! Huang Li roared as his muscles bulged. He threw out a punch and exploded the giant flaming palm. His body did not stop as he rushed toward the Golden Crow Crown Prince and threw out a punch. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.